Oh, guess what? We have a special guest, Dr. John Gray. Hello, Dr. John Gray. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, Raymond. Always a pleasure to be
Hello,
with you.
my dear friend, Dr. John Gray. He is a star of the movie The Secret. He is one of the greatest nonfiction authors of all time. In fact, in the year 1999, he won an award for the top author of the century. And that was wonderful for him, but not so wonderful for my other friend, Jack Canfield, who came second in the century contest. But John is the amazing author of the world famous iconic book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And he has repurposed that into actually several other books, approaching it in slightly different ways. And people just love everything that you write, John. I love every time we talk together. We go on vacation together, at least before the lockdown. We used to go on vacation together twice every year, and I loved it. And I'm so happy that you're on the air with us today. So, John, here is your job. We're in a lockdown, and you are the man-woman guru of the universe. In a lockdown, we have two opposing problems. One is we're cloistered together, too close maybe, and for too many hours a day with certain people that we may not enjoy, or maybe we do enjoy, and we're far away and can't touch people that we also love. So there's the double problem that we're too close to some people and too far from others. How do we survive this crazy lockdown from the human interaction point of view?
Raymond, you kind of summarized everything I can say right there. That's the challenge. If we're too close, we need to back off. If we're too far away, we need to connect. That's the solution. But how do we do that? If you need to connect, you're lonely and you're at home, or you're with a spouse who's needing time to pull away, because we all need time apart. We all need time together. So let's break it down. If your partner's needing time to pull away, then what do you do to connect? You connect with what you can connect with, and that's what's called have a life. Even when we're not in lockdown, often men will need to go to their cave, and women will say, well, when he goes to his cave, what am I supposed to do? You need to connect in other ways. You can connect with yourself. You can connect through prayer to a higher power. You connect with your genius self through personal growth techniques. You connect with your friends. Really powerful time this has been for a lot of people who made the best of it, is learning other needs that they have. As we get older, think about people not like you, because you're like 85 years old, 90 years old, look so young. That's only a joke, everybody. But Raymond is always learning. Raymond is always learning. You see, when people think they know it all, then they get old, they get rigid, they get crusty. Life force is a primary need that we have, is the need to continue learning and growing. Now, of course, you're all here to learn and grow, so I'm speaking to the choir, but a lot of people don't. So you can fool yourself. Let's say you're a woman, and women tend to have a greater need to connect, and that's because to connect outside themselves. And that's because the hormone estrogen is so important for a woman's health and well-being. If she's happy and fulfilled, there's always like 10 to 20 times more estrogen in her body than a man. Or you can compare that when you have less estrogen in menopause, your estrogen levels will be significantly higher than your male hormones, which is testosterone. So you want to find the right balance, and your hormones are in balance, not because you're needing to take them, but because you're feeling well-being. And connection is the secret for estrogen. And disconnection, detachment, separation, being on your own, being self-reliant, this produces your testosterone hormone. And men, if they're having well-being and happiness, they have much higher testosterone levels than a woman. If we look at the tests, it's generally 10 to 20 times higher than the average woman is a man's place of well-being when it comes to testosterone. So it's not a matter of just taking these hormones, it's a matter of making the hormones. So now when we're in lockdown, what happens, and I have to tell a funny story because I've given lots of talks on this and people shared their ways of working with it. And one man said, the solution for lockdown in our family is we can't look at each other. He's got children, and mom and dad, they go to different rooms and they only meet at lunch and dinner. 'Cause I just think it's a great solution in a practical way. This originally comes from the idea of, here I am, a writer in my own home. And when I moved to this bigger house, which is what happened when I wrote Men Are From Mars, which brought more abundance in my life. But before that, a little house with my wife, and I'm sitting there writing at my computer, and she's in the kitchen making dinner for all of us while I'm busy working. And so while that's happening, she's feeling ignored by me because she sees me not looking at her. So there's an experience is that when you're needing connection, and women do need more connection than men biologically, because it's through connecting with others that we feel good. We get that rush of appreciation, of trust, of love, of comfort, of ease. If you look biologically, what's happening is that for a woman, her estrogen levels are always much higher than her testosterone levels. That means she's more on her female side. And she also can be on her male side here. If you're a woman and you're raising children, you happen to be one that stays at home more of the time and cooks and cleans and all that. You're really the CEO of the business. She's making that testosterone and she's doing activities that stimulate estrogen if she's happy. If she's not happy, then somewhere the hormones are out of balance. And every woman has her own unique balance of that she has to find. I was talking to a friend of mine who has a young child, and she says, I could never survive these young children if I didn't have a part-time job. I've got to get away. Trying to entertain your children all day is not a good thing. And just giving your children an iPad to entertain them is not a good thing. They need to be interacting and doing things with their body and learning and growing. And that was what I was focused on in this time of, it's a need that we have our whole lives. If you want to stay young and happy and fulfilled, education is so important that we're learning new and different things to apply in our lives that are relevant to our lives. Now, that's so interesting because, as an expert in romance, and most now it's all over the place. If you want more romance in your relationship, you have to create dates, right? Yet, but you do the things you did in the beginning of the relationship when there was romance, then you can create romance again. But often those instructions only go so far. The theme in going somewhere new for a getaway, going to a different restaurant and so forth, this is good stuff. But the theme there is newness. Newness stimulates the brain chemical dopamine, the dopamine of aliveness and pleasure and passion. And so newness is something we need. So in the family where they all go to different rooms, they're missing each other. They're not having too much connection. Then when they connect, they feel, oh, this is nourishing a need that I have. Now, for women, a big need that they have, because they need more estrogen, is that they have someone to talk to, that they have no desire or motivation to change in any way. That's very, very important. You see, often when you're talking to your husband about things, if you're unhappy, you'll talk about these things to get him to change and understand what you need. And there's no problem with telling your partner what you'd like and what you need. You just have to do it from a place of not complaining, because complaining is using negative emotion in order to try to change someone. And that's a really bad habit, because once you start experiencing using negative emotions to change someone, then when you want something more, your brain starts looking for reasons to feel negative. So we have a lot of people, particularly during the lockdown, which are depressed, they're anxious and so forth, because their mind is afraid. You see, when you're afraid, your brain goes right into a bias of 10 times more negativity. And this is more so in women than men, but it can also happen to men. It's just that what men will do when they're focused on negativity is they tend to go into a passive state, a state of non-doing, a lack of courage, lack of motivation, lack of energy to do things. You see, and that's all testosterone. So the symptoms of low testosterone for men are lack of motivation, lack of physical attraction to your wife, and ironically, increased physical attraction to someone who's not your wife. That's why we have this pandemic of pornography, is that men who have low testosterone, always with a new partner, a new body, giving you the message that you're the king. Because generally, to the primitive part of our brain, when a woman undresses, it's because she feels super safe with us, super safe, and we provided that safety for her. So we're like the king that she can trust. So this activates all these primitive hormones, and what's happening there? It's simply newness is doing it. So education is so important that we not look to our partners often when we have this compulsion. I want to know what my partner's thinking and whatever. If it's at pushing this, we need to detach and focus on somewhere else where we can learn something new. There's a need inside of us to grow, and just like a plant needs water, if it doesn't get that water, it will die. And as human beings, romance and connection with someone we love dearly is one need, but also loving ourselves is another need. Educating ourselves is another need. Playfulness, a thing you might do, which is wonderful. And during this time, when you have a family at home, play games. Now, I saw this in my grandchildren who were in the lockdown, had the best time of their life. It was because both my daughter and her husband. Now, her husband continued working at home with his computer, but it wasn't in front of the family. So people were feeling ignored. He had a separate room, like an office, and nobody goes there. And it's like he's not at home right now. Because if you feel your partner is at home, they should be available to you at all times, but actually they need to have their own alone time. So what happened is, because of lockdown, my daughter is she's a chef. And so she couldn't put on these big parties for people. That's what she does. And so she stayed at home. Normally she's not at home so much. But what they did all day is they played games. They had all these inventive games. They did shows, they did playfulness. Again, that's another one of our needs as human beings, is to feel games and playfulness and joy and interactions. And if you have a resistance to that, that's probably what you need the most. Then there's also another primary need that we have other than the need for romance, because what I'm focusing on here is a point. When you're used to getting love and connection through your partner, and suddenly uh, you don't have those other needs that you're getting normally. You know, when you go and you're driving your car, you're in the grocery store, you're talking to business people. When you're out in the world, you're getting a lot of these other needs that we have fulfilled. So there's an emptiness inside of us. And suddenly we look to our partner, or we expect our partner to fill that emptiness. And that's where we have to put a check on ourselves anytime we're feeling irritated, annoyed, disappointed, frustrated, where you just want to explode inside, which happens to people. What's missing is they're not nourishing their other love vitamins, so to speak, which I was just talking about. Uh, Also, loving unconditionally, and having people that you're giving to without any expectation of return. And that's also a value of friendship. And for women, what I know is really crucial for them is the ability, when they have negative emotions, to be able to share them with someone. And that's often goes into complaining, but complaining doesn't produce a lot of estrogen, just a little bit. What really produces a lot of estrogen is what you would get if you went to a therapist or you went to a coach who you're not trying to change, but you're sharing with them and connecting with them by revealing what's inside of you. Because that's what produces estrogen. Estrogen is produced by intimacy. Intimacy is when someone hears and sees inside of you, they go in you. So when I'm listening to my wife, or I'm listening to my children, I'm my mind, I go, now be patient here, John, because you're giving them a gift. And there's a love guarantee. I'm talking to the men now. When your wife is talking, you might be thinking, all right, she's telling me something, we have to solve a problem, let's get to the point, let's figure out what's expected, or let her know what's realistic, or what you can do, what you can't do, or why you did it. All that stuff is not providing the nourishment she needs at that time when she's talking. Because when she's talking and sharing, whether she's conscious or not, most women are conscious, but many are not aware that they're not looking for a solution. They're looking to connect, because connection is what will make them feel good. And if you don't have connection, then you keep thinking, in order for me to feel good, I have to solve all these problems. The house has to be perfect. We have to have time for this. We have to make sure that we send out thank you cards. We have to clean all the dishes. Suddenly the normal challenges of life become much bigger because she's not getting what she needs inside, and particularly what women need in a heterosexual male-female relationship or in a gay relationship from their romantic partner. What you would She has a need to be filled up by someone penetrating her, meaning listening to her, going into her in such a way that she feels safe to say what's going on. Now, sometimes for me, I'll be listening to my partner and I kind of go, what's the point? I could cut short to the solution to this whole thing right now, or is she looking for my answer to this? And I realize, hold on, John, back off. That's not what she's asking for, whether she knows it or not. What she needs is to feel heard, that her voice can come out without interruption and without someone trying to fix her or change her or correct her or teach her. And that was a big lesson for me to learn, Raymond, is because I'm a teacher. I get paid to give solutions, and the better my solutions are, the more money I get paid, the more successful I feel. So everybody wants, and I go to a party. It used to really annoy Bonnie because everybody asks me questions, and then if I drink some beer, I'm really entertaining as well. You've seen me like that. And so everybody flocks around me, and my wife is like, what is John? He's always the center of attention. He's so arrogant. And I had to learn. She would give me a little talk. She said, now, John, when we have social events, it's not everybody getting to know you. That's part of it. It's you getting to know others feeling heard, others feeling seen, and so forth. And so another technique she used on me, which I suggest to women when you're annoyed and irritated by a partner's behavior, if you resist it, it will persist. If you resist it, it will just get worse. Instead, what she said to me is, now, John, I know you enjoy doing that, and lots of people enjoy that, but I don't. So when you start taking the center of attention, I'm going to just walk into another room and have a chat with a friend. You go on and do what you want to do. And what she did by that is that I would notice that I'm the center of attention and I'm taking all the air in the room, so to speak, which is fine if I'm on stage and I'm teaching a seminar and people have signed up for that. But in a social setting, we have to have a different kind of a need. So in that setting, she'd walk into the other room and I went, oh, okay, I'd rather be with her than with these people right now. So I would settle down and start asking other people questions and then bring Bonnie back in the room in a sense. Because, a man's fulfillment primarily comes from providing a kind of support which results in other people being happy. And then you have a marriage, you have a priority that results in her being happy. So in my mind, I wrestled with this. I said, what's wrong with my doing that? And then I said to myself, hey, John, you get to fulfill your need to teach crowds, which is one of my needs as a teacher, in your work. She's looking for an evening with you for intimacy, where she feels special, where she feels she's my priority. And that's wonderful. Sometimes women are afraid to even say, I want to be number one tonight. I want to be special. There's even spiritual teachers who often say, oh, feeling special is a bad thing. You should just be one with everything. Then what you want is to be one with everything and unique in yourself, special and also one. And so in a relationship, she wants to feel special. And again, I wrestled with that, like, isn't that egotistical? And then I thought, gee, I bet Raymond and I both want to be number one best-selling authors. What's wrong with that? See, everybody in your work, you want to be number one. You want to be the best. You want your team to win. There's nothing wrong with being special. It's a part of life. And then there's a graciousness of letting other people feel special too. So in an intimate relationship, the bottom line is women need to feel special. That's what romance is. And men need to feel successful in making her feel special. Because if you look at the flip side of all of this, and I've seen it over 40 years of marriage counseling, when couples don't want to stay together, when they're just ending their relationship, particularly if they're disappointed, I'll ask the man, what's going on in a separate room? Give me the bottom line. And men are very good at bottom lines, generally speaking, unless they're in the middle of an argument. If a woman has a complaint, he'll always come up with another complaint. But when you get to the bottom line, it's like, what's going on here? He'll tell me again and again, no matter what I do, John, it's never enough to make her happy. So I just give up. It's just done. I mean, I love her. I wish her well, but I don't have those feelings strong anymore because I don't nothing I can do can make it better, because men just want to make it better. And women, their complaint at the end is the opposite. She's not saying to me, John, no matter what I do, it's never enough to make him happy. It's no matter what I do, he doesn't give it back to me. I don't get what I want. I don't get what I want. And in so many cases, the tragedy of this is she's got this partner who, if you know how to communicate with him and educate him in a way that works for him, all he wants is to provide what you need as a priority. It's not like he can't also take care of his own needs, his friendships, his work. You got to find the right balance of all of this. But in the intimate relationship between men and women, the primary need for men is to feel successful in providing happiness for her. One of the biggest sources of stresses for a man is when she's not happy. And the home, that's ideally is not the place where you should come home to a source of stress of a wife who's not happy with you. But you can come home to a wife who says, oh, I'm stressed and I need to talk about my day to feel happy. You don't have to change in any way. You just listen to me and I'll feel better. Well, that's one way to get a man to listen, is don't make him the target of the blame. It's so common sense, but hard to put into practice until we recognize that most of the time, our unhappiness is less to do with what's going on around us and more to do with how we react to it. Now, that's sort of a universal personal growth principle, which is you can't control the outer world completely, but you can control how you respond to the outer world. And then a subset in there is you can't control the outer world and you can't control your reaction to it either, because we have all this programming from childhood and all the way back in history to being monkeys. So we get angry about things, we get mad about stuff, we get jealous about stuff, we get greedy about stuff, we get mean. All these kind of reactions are not human, they're monkey reactions. It's not the loving person who knelt before you and said, I'll give my life for you, sweetheart. You're the most important person in my life. See, this is the sweetness of who we all are, but we lose it when we're not happy, when we're stressed. You know, one little phrase that illustrates that is, nobody is happy and loving when they have a toothache. Pain. Stress keeps us from keeping our hearts open. Now, what's interesting is you can also see this biologically, is that when you're producing stress hormones, is generally you're not happy about something or you're afraid about something. You're producing stress hormones, blood flow stops or diminishes, becomes less and less and less to this prefrontal cortex of the brain. And that's the only part of the brain that can hear another point of view. Everything else is programming. When you can listen to somebody from the prefrontal cortex of your brain, you can actually hear another point of view and adjust your thinking, upgrade your thinking, upgrade your approach, and grow in love. Oh, that's new. I hadn't thought of that. I could try this. I could try that. So what we want to do is to recognize on a hormonal level, just to get this, when you're producing the stress hormone cortisol, as a woman, your hormones are now going out of balance. You're becoming more masculine, and men, you're becoming more feminine, although you wouldn't think it to be feminine. I have to explain what that means. The feminine side of us is dependent on external situations to make us happy and fulfilled. That's when you're falling in love. Oh, when I'm in your presence, Raymond, I feel so happy and fulfilled. Well, my estrogen levels just went up. You're my good buddy. You know, you have history, we have safety, we have appreciation, we have trust, acknowledgement, praise, all those positive feelings. If I'm around you too much, I'll just become lazy because my estrogen will go too high. I have to come back into a world where there's challenges, where I have to solve things and fix things on my own. You see, this is finding the balance of the male and female sides inside of us. And men, if they become too feminine, they become too dependent out in the outer world to make them happy, rather than dependent on their thinking and their actions and their character and their virtues and their values. When you put that love into action, testosterone goes up. And if you have too much estrogen, you become too dependent. And that typically happens when men's testosterone levels are low, when they don't have confidence, or they're not following through on what they say, or their virtues and values are being ignored. Like, say, I want to steal from somebody and I rationalize it. Now my testosterone is going to go down. When testosterone goes down in men, estrogen tends to go up. And that's called addiction. See, addiction is depending on some behavior or substance to make you feel good, rather than the fact that I did this wonderful thing for someone, that I made a difference for someone. So coming back to the dynamic of men and women relationships, and this is just, it's a no-brainer. It's part of our culture now, happy wife, happy life. That's particularly talking about a man. So if a woman says happy, happy wife, she's happy. But to a man, happy wife means happy life. You can go through drudgery. If you look at all the jobs that men have chosen to take in this world throughout history, it's changing now, but were the jobs that were difficult, dangerous, and dirty and disgusting. Okay. And we happily did it. We did it with a smile. And women were amazed, and we're very appreciative of that. That's when we had these limiting roles where men did that and women did the nurturing, loving, supposed to be happy jobs. Now women are bored to death with it because we're higher consciousness, and a higher consciousness, for a woman to be fulfilled, she needs to be expressing more of her male qualities. But the challenge is how to keep coming back to her female qualities. And for a man, we want to be more happy and fulfilled in our life and our work and so forth. But how do we do it without losing that strength of our masculinity, which is selfless detachment? You postpone gratification. See, gratification is estrogen. That's why so many women are shopping now. And that also is a good technique, as long as you can afford it during the lockdown. Because anytime you feel I want something and I can have it, it will be delivered to my door. I can open up the package and it's new and it's different. Estrogen gets produced. So new and different, along with I can have. See, when you feel I can have something, you're experiencing trust. Trust is a very, very important hormone, attitude to produce estrogen. Confidence is the attitude that will produce testosterone. And people, see, you have to have discernment. This is what my work is picking apart and discerning, and you have clarity, because that's how evolution occurs, is through discernment of what works and what doesn't work. So with discernment, you see that when I'm trusting, I can depend on you. If I'm giving this talk, immediately I trust Raymond's going to love my talk. So already I feel good. Big smiley guy, a brilliant guy, and he's somebody that knows how to appreciate. This is like one of his great powers, is his appreciation. That smile on his face, that's his female side. But you see, greatness is a balance of female and masculine. This is the guy, Raymond Aaron, who chose to do the most difficult, dirty, dangerous job you could ever do. He went to the North Pole. I mean, I would never do that. I mean, and I could not do that. He said, I can do it. I want to prove I can do it. And he did it. He gave talks on it. It was inspiring to people that you could overcome your fears and your challenges and endure, and you learn something and you grow from it. And particularly how you grow from it is your masculine side. Back in the days when we had these more primitive cultures, there were initiations for boys at 13. It was now time to experience the power inside of you. When you see the superhero movies, sometimes they say, you don't get to discover your power until you really need it. It doesn't come forth. Well, this is how masculinity is. Until you're put in a situation which requires it of you, it will come forth. So you would have a vision quest for a boy around 13 or 14, the puberty time. The men would take that boy away from the comfort of living with mom and the kids, and you go out into the wild, in some cases 7 days, no food, no water, and no shelter. And you have to go out there and you endure a kind of suffering that gives you a vision. Now, I'm not saying everybody should do that. I'm saying if you want to really develop your masculinity, get married. Because your wife's going to have moods that go up and down, and you have to maintain your stability at that time. You can't react. You see, we have to train men not to react back. When women have complaints, don't complain back. She's upset, don't get upset back. This is called training. It's learning to suck it up temporarily, not completely. I'm not saying become feeling less. It's just don't allow your monkey reactions, because the way the monkey brain works, you ever heard the saying, monkey see, monkey do? It's also monkey see and monkey feel. When somebody's angry, we get angry back. If somebody's not trusting us, then we don't trust them. And then our heart closes. So if men are trained, and this is what this talk is, so many good ideas for men. When your wife's talking, don't react. Just take time to listen. And the way you do it, it's kind of like if I'd have to do a long haul to give a talk, like sitting in a plane for 13 hours or connecting and being 24 hours to some place around the world. Do I want to do that? I don't want to do that. Why would I do that? Oh, then I think about how much money I'm getting paid. And suddenly I go, all right, I'm happy doing this. See, this is a very male quality, which is to be able to delay gratification as long as the outcome is something I really want. And of course, why do I want that money? The bottom line there is I want a better life for my family and for my children. There's always that motivation in men is I have it, so now what can I do with it? And that's what builds his testosterone. So in terms of relationships, what I'm teaching men is it's called a guarantee love reward. Guarantee love reward. I imagine when I'm listening to somebody, right away I imagine above them have this big gold ribbon, like I just won first prize, #1 best-selling author in the world, right there. It's You have to imagine this gold star. You're gonna get it. It's not yet. It's gonna be there after 14 hours. You're gonna get there. You're gonna get your gold star. But when you're listening to a woman be upset and you're not reacting, getting angry back, not trying to change her point of view, but being curious, wondering, being surprised, even, the ultimate and really good listening is not just to be curious. You ask, help me understand that better. So you're learning, help me understand that better. And you're curious. Now you're learning something you didn't know before. Women will always come up with stuff you couldn't imagine. It's the way they think, the way they feel, what they get upset about. It's different from you. Don't make it wrong. Just know that if she's stressed and unhappy, by listening to her, the unhappiness will go away because her hormone estrogen is going to go up. And when it goes up, then her brain will go, my goodness, he is such an amazing guy. I'm so lucky. Raymond is just the very best. That's what his wife feels because he's so present with her. This whole movement towards being present is basically being non-reactive. Don't try to change, but be there. Allow what exists to be. If you allow what exists to be, particularly when your wife's maybe producing a little resistance in you, suck it up, man. Be tough, be strong, and do what works, and then do what you want to do for yourself to feel good. But what you do is you endure. Actually, the word feel is to endure. So feel what she's feeling as opposed to want to push it away very quickly with a solution. She needs to be heard. Go ahead, Raymond.
I want to tell you that every time I listen to you, I love you even more. You're so funny and so insightful. And the comments that you haven't been able to see, but the comments have been like Brenda just put in absolutely great wisdom. And so, what I would like is for you to get feedback. And so, I'm asking everyone to type in one word. See if you can type in one word that explains how you feel about Dr. John Gray or how much you learned or some recognition of John. And let's see. Wow. Aaron says, wow. Deborah says, empowered. Susan says, grateful. Louisa says, wise. Florence says, insightful. Florence says, inspirational. Pascal says, Maraviso. So happy, amazing, leader, spiritual, amazing, wise, powerful, good advice, awesome, teacher. Wow, that's what guru, great, grateful, wow, always on point, one of a kind, lifesaver, real, love guru.
Would you please copy that for me and send it to me?
I can actually copy it. Yes, I do have that.
That is so sweet. All of you wonderful people. I'm guaranteed if I'm talking to Raymond, I'm talking to wonderful people because like people collect together. So beautiful. So I'm also able now seeing it happening. I'm looking over to the side, all your wonderful comments. Now, if you notice, just notice what happened to my face as I'm sharing, as I'm reading this, the amount of blood flow that goes to the front part of the brain. See, this is what opens us up. This is a blush, it just happens. And the other place that happens, by the way, is of course love, but the emotion. What's interesting, which I think is an emotion we all need to experience more, be aware of, is the emotion of embarrassment. When people are embarrassed, blood flows to the front part of their brain. Because what you're saying when you're feeling embarrassed is, I just saw something and I can do it better. I can do it better. Oh, I want to self-correct what I just did. And that's why we want to take those little risks. And that's why we want to be easy with ourselves, with permission to make mistakes. That's why having friends where you can talk about your mistakes. You see, that was your faux pas, you were ridiculous. And it's hard when you're in a relationship and your partner's angry with you either way. It's hard to say I'm sorry because it's kind of open your heart up, and they go, yeah, you should be sorry. You should be punished. You don't deserve, that's the fear we all have. So it's hard to say you're sorry. And in saying I'm sorry also is a way for us to reflect on a behavior or a reaction that we had that we would like to upgrade. I'd like to improve. I'd like to upgrade. So that's one of the benefits of friends is you can, and during the lockdown, bring it back to the lockdown, is that notice when you're in a bad mood and you say something to your partner, maybe you can't say to them, gee, I'm having a bad day and it's not your fault and it's not about you. It's just me today. Or, I had a blood sugar drop, or I'm missing my friends and I'm taking it out on you. You see, this is taking responsibility to be a loving person. Anytime you have negativity, that's your negativity, and you love this person, you're committed to this person. So clearly you want to feel embarrassed about it. And one of the ways to feel embarrassed is to be with a friend and laugh about it. See, that's the joyfulness, is to be able to laugh about your mistakes rather than feel bad about your mistakes. Although feeling regret is a good emotion to have, I won't say it, but a better one is to be with somebody where you can laugh about it, let it go. And, I grew up I'm kind of had a unique childhood, which helped me build a lot of these ideas, but there's 6 boys in my family, 1 girl, and the 6 boys in Texas. And, they misbehave. It's hard to control 6 boys. All right. And so the philosophy in Texas when I was growing up is you basically, when your boys don't obey, and my mom, she'd be home taking care of these kids, and if we misbehave, she says, I'm going to tell your father. And then we'd like, oh, okay, watch out, we're going to tell father. Because what would father do? What father would do, part of his job was go to your father's room. He'd go to the room and he'd say, pull down your pants, and he pulled out his belt and he'd whip you. Now, we look at that and go horrified, but that's what people did in Texas then. This is what people did. That's what we have to realize. How we measure things today is different from the past, and we can't throw away the past. I don't say, oh my God, I hate my father because he did that. I don't feel like I'm so dysfunctional and my life is terrible because of that. We forgive them. They know not what they do. They're growing up. Our whole society is growing up, but we don't like tear down statues of people who beat their children. That's ridiculous. They were doing what people did then, and they were doing the best they could. My dad was doing the best he could. You forgive and you learn from it, and you share that with a friend. And, if you're with therapists, you can, go in and cry about it a little bit. That's okay, but let it go into the past. And the reason often for those that have done therapy, and it's so healing, is because when you're looking at things that bothered you in the past, you share your feelings about it. You're not using your feelings to change that person. You're using to change yourself. That's when therapy works. But
John,
it doesn't always work. But the point of view is when you just talk to a friend about what you feel, not to change your partner. Say you're angry with your husband or angry with your wife, frustrated with them, always convert your anger back to frustration. Then I'm so frustrated about this. He did this, or she didn't do this, or she reacted that way. That's good to talk about, help your brain process it. And then you laugh about it afterwards as well. You can't have perfection. And then your brain will start to look at other things that are good in your life. See, the whole thing is we get focused on one negative thing and forget we can breathe. We're alive. There's trees, there's food. We're not suffering in that way. So
John,
many of us have a life of abundance and we don't even notice it.
John, I don't know how you squeeze so much into half an hour. You're amazing. You're amazing. We love you. I have copied the comments and I will send them to you. I had so much fun with you. I think I made a mistake. I should have given you 14 hours, not half an hour. But you're amazing. Thank you. I can't wait till we're on vacation next and we have a big hug.
I'll look forward to it so much. And I thank you all for your wonderful comments in there. And I'm a little embarrassed because I know that there may be a few stories I didn't finish, but I was going to get to them. I just didn't have time. But I know I covered some good points here. I'd like to just summarize a few practical things women can do is when your husband says something or does something, if it's true, make sure to verbalize what's inside of you with a thought like, that makes sense, or that's a good idea. Amazing. You're right. Actually, everybody can look at all the comments you made to me today. Try using those on your husband and your boys, or your girls too, and your wife. Acknowledgement of positive feelings is so important, but particularly for guys, because women always go, well, that makes sense, but you don't realize how helpful it is to his sense of testosterone that I made sense, I had a good idea, I contributed, and she's amazed by me. So that's one. And the flip side for men, a little practice in the direction of when she's talking. Remember, you've got a love guarantee. It may take a while, but you'll get it. And you just ask questions rather than give answers. Questions like, help me understand that better. Tell me more. What else? Get her going. And sometimes she won't give you what else until you give a little bit more. So give a little bit more, but don't give anything that's negative. Don't give anything that's negative. And if you say, well, I'm thinking about it. Well, how do you feel about what I just said? Well, I need to consider it more. So don't get into arguments, particularly when your partner's not happy, because then it tends to escalate. Two practical points at the end. I just wanted to throw them in. Thank you, Raymond, for letting me be with you again.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. But I do want to tell you something funny. Recently, Karen was upset and I said, tell me more. And she said, are you doing Dr. John Gray on me? But I said, yes, and it still worked. I love you, John. Thank you so much.
I love you, Raymond. And thank you all. And thank you for your lovely comments.